Thank you very much, Father. Appreciate that very kind introduction. I wonder if can you folks hear me okay? Is the buzzing noise mostly gone? Doesn't Father Creedon have a great Irish accent? I remember growing up as a kid, Father Creedon was always around. I thought all Catholic priests were from Ireland. They all had that wonderful Irish brogue. So even if you're not Catholic, you can appreciate the Irish brogue. But Father, thank you very much for those kind words. Thank you for your friendship. Really, I'm all kidding aside, since I can ever remember, Father Creedon's been around. My Aunt Ethel lived in McLean, and just every time I went over to her house, he was there. And celebrating Mass with him this summer with our children and my wife Jeannie up in Massachusetts. So he's a great friend to the Shrivers and the Kennedys. We always put the Shrivers first. Don't tell anybody I said that, Father. So, it's kind of funny, when I was little, when you come over into Virginia, there was always competition with my cousins, and my father's family had been in Maryland for some 200 years, and he used to always complain about the Virginians, about the oyster wars in I think it was the 1600s. So it's kind of weird being at Virginia International University. I kind of get a little freaked out when I come over to Virginia. Nothing personal against the school here, and thank you so much for taking care of the buzzing noise. But all kidding aside, it is good to be in Virginia with all of you today. I'll tell you one funny story, Father. I don't think I've told you this one, but this book I wrote on my dad, I was honored to be invited by Barbara Bush, President George H.W. Bush's wife, down to Texas. They have a big book event down there every year. She raises money for family literacy, and they bring 3 or 4 or 5 authors down to do readings from their book, and I got invited down there, which was a huge deal, right? And John Meacham was there. He won the Nobel Prize in Literature, best-selling author, just wrote a book on George H.W. Bush, actually. A guy, Brad Thor was there. He's written like 5 or 6 thrillers, all #1. A woman named Mary Neal was there. She had died, actually, and then come back to life and wrote about that experience, #1 on the New York Times list. And then there was me. So I had a big, lunch with Mrs. Bush and the Bush family. There are a lot of Bushes. Wow. Like more than they are the Kennedys. And so we had this great lunch. And I go back to the hotel afterwards, and I get in the hotel elevator, and the guy, comes in. I'm in Texas. We're down in Houston, Texas, right? I'm going to speak in front of 2,000 Texans. The big establishment in Houston and Texas. Cowboy hat on, cowboy boots on. The guy gets in the elevator, and he looks at me, and he goes, "Hey, anyone ever told you you look like a Kennedy?" And I looked at him, and I said, "I don't know, sometimes." And the guy goes, "That must make you so mad." It's nice to be in Virginia. It's nice to be with all of you. Really nice to be here. And John, a special thanks to you for calling and asking me to be here, for starting SALT, I know, with Father Creedon, really leading the way, and for all of you, all kidding aside, to be here. The story I told you is true about the guy with the cowboy hat. It really is a pleasure to be here. When John asked me to say a few words and looked at the title, about trying to set things aright in Virginia, the thing that kind of struck me as I reflected on that is that to set things aright, we have to deal with so much change. Father talked about some of the dark times that we're experiencing today, yesterday, the last couple of weeks, and maybe even the last few months and years. But there's so much change going on, not only here in Virginia, but around the world. I mean, if you look around, the internet has changed so much. Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, Uber, and Lyft. I didn't even hear of these companies a couple years ago. You have England, Brexit. I mean, there's so much change going on there. Personally, I changed jobs a couple of years ago. Now I run Save the Children Action Network, which is an effort to try to change the systems and how they deal with children, not only here in the United States, but abroad. We focus on 2 issues. One is early childhood education, trying to expand the accessibility and the quality of early ed in this country. We're trying to change funding streams in places like Manchester, New Hampshire, in Iowa, in Washington State, Seattle, King County, Washington. And then internationally, working on the issue of maternal and child survival. Father, you know this, that today, 16,000 kids will die before they reach their 5th birthday, mostly from preventable diseases. 16,000. And 800 moms will die today, again, mostly from issues, complications in childbirth, almost all of which are preventable. The good news is those numbers have been cut in half over the last 25 years, but still 16,000 kids and 800 moms every day is just too much. So what we're trying to do through Save the Children Action Network is to try to increase the federal commitment to proven cost-efficient and effective systems that will lower those numbers from 16,000 a day down to 0 and save those 800 mothers, bring them down to 0, and then trying to change the funding mechanisms, working with people exactly like you all in Manchester, New Hampshire, in South Carolina, in Iowa, in Washington State, to try to increase the amount of money going into early childhood education. So amidst all this change, I think, part of the question that we all have to deal with is